In one corner, we have Uber. In the other corner, we have Lyft. What is the better rideshare option right now? At the time of this video, at the time that you're watching this video, should you be an Uber driver or a Lyft driver? I'm gonna give you a short answer and then a long answer because I hate YouTubers that ramble on. I don't like having fluff in my videos. Short answer, what you're not gonna like, both. Medium answer, I'll give you like a medium answer and then the long answer. Medium answer, really, yeah, both. And I know there are some people saying, Mark, just pick one. I know in these type of videos, you're like, come on, you can't give a tie. You can't give a tie. And it's not a tie. And it's not a tie. But I gotta say, when it comes to Uber versus Lyft, this is a big thing a lot of people want to know. The medium answer is it depends on a variety of different factors when it comes to how much money you can make from either platform, even in the same weekend or week to week or day to day, hour to hour, bonus to bonus, incentive to incentive, and so much more. Medium answer, drive for both. Trust me. Now let's get to the long answer. First off, I want to say, I have no affiliation with Lyft. I have no affiliation with Uber. I don't know. I don't know if they watched my videos. That'd be kind of funny or cool if they did. I have no affiliation with either company, so I have to stress that. But here's the big thing. When it comes to all these pro tip videos I've done about driving for Lyft, driving for Uber and everything, I always suggest as one of my top pro tips, drive, or let me word it this way, sign up for both. Few different reasons why. Now, my history, I originally signed up with Lyft. Signed up with Lyft. I was driving for Lyft, making good money in Boston, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I don't really need to sign up with Uber. Lyft is fine. That was my perspective. And then I was like, you know what? Okay, you know what? Why not just sign up for Uber? People are talking about it. I'll do it. Kind of like going to the club. Like, everyone's talking about it. Why not join? And I was like, wait a minute. Uber's paying more than Lyft. Why was I driving for Lyft all this time? I was driving for Uber. And then, at a certain point, I decided to test the waters back again, tiptoe a little bit back again with Lyft. Lyft started to pay more. And I went back to Lyft, right? And I went back and forth. Here's the main thing, and there's a few different reasons why I'm talking about in this video. The average driver I find makes 20 to 25 an hour on average. When you look at all the countrywide averages, that's my honest average after interviewing hundreds of drivers, both in person and online and offline. When it comes to this channel, I've interviewed a lot of drivers, on average, 20 to 25 an hour. When you look at Uber versus Lyft, I do know that some drivers say, hey, Mark, in my area, Uber's more popular and I get paid more. Other drivers say, hey, Lyft is more popular and I get paid more. Statistically speaking, I will say Uber's typically more popular. It's in more places like Lyft right now, at least at the time of this video, is just in the United States and Canada. But when it comes to, different parts of the country and everything, Uber, at least in the United States, typically is going to be more popular, right? Now, when it comes to how much money you can make, though, it really depends. One, just the day-to-day. In general, just the day-to-day. There are some days that, for whatever reason, Uber might be paying more. There are other days that Lyft might be paying more. And in case you didn't know, as another pro tip, you can run both on your phone. It can be a lot. It can be a bit of a hassle. But I know some rideshare drivers who pull up Uber, pull up Lyft, go online on both, and you can do this. You wait. You get a ride on Lyft, and I don't like that one. You get a ride on Uber, and I don't like that one. You get a ride on Lyft, you're like, you know what? I like this one. You accept the ride on Lyft. You sign out or sign out of Uber. You just repeat this process, right? So these are different techniques I know a lot of drivers do. But the first thing I'm going to suggest is it depends day to day, right? I mean, I say this to a lot of drivers that my best advice when you want to make more money, and let's be honest, who wouldn't want to make more money driving? I mean, let's be honest, is to always test it out. Look at the analytics. I think one thing I've noticed after interviewing a lot of drivers, especially those that make a lot of money and do like driving, is you're constantly looking at the analytics. That's what I did when I drove. So for example, I might drive for Lyft on a Friday night. Then the next Friday night, I'm going to drive for Uber. And I'm going to compare and contrast. Be like, okay, which one was more busy? Which one had high paying rides? Which one were the surges a lot better, right? I'm going to compare and contrast both apps to make sure I can maximize and earn the most amount of money I can when it comes to looking at both. And here's the thing. There are some times on a Friday night, Uber's paying way more. Sometimes Lyft is paying way more. Sometimes it's very consistent. Sometimes it's inconsistent. Maybe on one random Friday night, Uber's usually popping off, but for whatever reason, it's just not it. You have Lyft. And I think this is another big thing too, going to the second thing, is you have a backup option. If, let's say, Uber's dead, you got Lyft. If Lyft is dead, you got Uber. Another thing is deactivation. I've talked before about this in a bunch of different videos, actually. I was about to say a few. Actually, a lot of videos. Because deactivation is a bit of an issue, actually, for some drivers that if, like, say, you got a bad passenger, and this does happen, it's rare, but it does happen, where, let's say, you got a bad passenger and you get into an argument, they leave the car and they say, hey, well, out of retaliation, they make something up about you. They make a lie. They say, you did this, you did that. He or she did X, Y, or Z. And next you get deactivated on Uber or get deactivated on Lyft. Well, if you're driving for only one, that's going to be a lot tricky. That's going to be kind of annoying. You're going to be a bit SOL if you want to continue driving, especially like say if you need to make ends meet and everything to put food on the table, you're stuck with that. But if you have both, at least if something happens while on the apps, you get deactivated from Uber, you have Lyft. You get deactivated from Lyft, now you have Uber. This is why it's really important to have both apps in case something happens with one app. The third thing now, and I think this is, if anything, the biggest reason I suggest for most drivers to have both is the bonuses and incentives. Now, like I said, for most drivers, they usually have a typical favorite, at least for a given time frame, right? Where they're like, hey, you know what? I'm sticking with Uber. It just pays way more than Lyft. It's way better. I'm sticking with Uber, I'd say. So you're driving for Uber for the most part, let's say 90% of the time. However, you never know. This happens all the time that Lyft may say, hey, you know what? We're having a big bonus right now. If you do, and I'm making numbers up, 50 rides this weekend, we're going to give you an extra $300 or $400. Uber might have a bonus where they say, hey, you know what? This weekend, we have a big concert going on. We have a big festival. We have a big X, Y, or Z. If you do X amount of rides, we're going to give you money. I know, for example, when EDC happens, which is a big electronic music festival in Vegas, EDC Vegas, I think Uber's doing a deal. If drivers did round trip, which typically for EDC, you go from the Strip in Vegas to the Speedway. If you did a round trip 8 times, which is a lot actually because there's a ton of traffic and everything, but if you did round trip 8 times during the EDC weekend, you get, I think, an extra like $800. And if you were driving for Lyft and you're doing Lyft typically, you're definitely better off taking a break from Lyft, doing those 8 rides, which already are going to pay a lot. Going for the Strip to the Speedway, going to be a lot of money with surging. I mean, you're going to be stuck in traffic, but you're going to be making a good amount of money. Extra $800 in your pocket. That's awesome. And that's a big thing is the bonuses and incentives. Like I remember one time this was in Boston for St. Patrick's Day. As you can imagine, St. Patrick's Day, Boston, huge surging, a lot of money to make. And I still remember this day. This was like years ago. I got a text from Uber with saying, hey, we're doing a thing, minimum $30 an hour guaranteed for St. Patrick's Day in Boston. I was like, ooh, minimum $30 an hour. Okay. Then Lyft texted me and they said, hey, we're actually doing an incentive. We're doing minimum $35 an hour. And I guarantee, they had to be looking at what each other was paying, right? So Lyft then texted me saying, hey, you know what? We're going to do minimum $35 an hour. And I'm like, all right, guess I'm driving for Lyft. And then Uber texted me the second, like maybe 5 minutes later and said, you know what? We changed our mind. We're going to up it to $40 an hour. They were almost like outbidding each other of the minimum hourly guarantee they were giving to their drivers. And as you can imagine, if you're signed up with only one app, you're kind of stuck with it. Or maybe you're rolling the dice because you never know. I think Uber did win the bidding war at $45 an hour. So I will say that. But if you're part of both apps, you get the best of both worlds. You're just stuck in the middle being like, I'm just going to watch you guys fight. Whoever wins, I'm going with you, right? And this is a big thing with bonuses and incentives. Because remember, it's not like Uber and Lyft has a minimum quota. You don't have to do minimum 5 rides a month. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription to be a part of Uber or Lyft. You drive for free. You can sign up for free. And I think a lot of drivers, even though this is very simple and common advice, I think a lot of drivers forget that you sign up for free. You don't have a quota. You don't have to turn the app at a certain time, or you can drive however you want. You could sign up with Lyft, not drive for Lyft for 2 months. A bonus pops up and you're like, hey, pretty good bonus. I'm going to do it. You just drive for Lyft, right? And keep that in mind. This is why I suggest to a lot of drivers, sign up with both apps. So when it comes to Uber versus Lyft, I know this is a big thing. Again, a lot of drivers ask me all the time, which one should I drive for? I honestly cannot say one or the other. I've also done a lot of research. Which app pays more? It depends on the area. There are some areas, I remember looking at this huge statistic, this huge survey about all this different data about in Atlanta, is Uber Lyft better? In San Diego, is Uber Lyft better? And here's the thing, depending on city to city, all around the country, Uber, statistically speaking, sometimes pays more. In other parts of the country, statistically speaking, Lyft pays more. And it fluctuates and it depends. There are so many different factors that come into this video. And that's why I know some drivers sometimes, like I said in the beginning, want a clear-cut answer. And there's nothing more annoying, I know, than an ambiguous YouTube video. A video that's kind of rambling on and they're like, okay, just get to the point. Tell me, Uber or Lyft? Both. I know. I honestly, after all the research I've done, after all the data and analysis I've done with all the statistics, I can't say either one. I can't pick one exactly because being honest, having both is the best sweet spot. You get the best of both worlds. You can test both out in your area. Again, Uber might pay more, Lyft might pay more on a given weekend. Uber might pay more, Lyft might pay more. Maybe Uber in your area pays more on the weekends, on the Friday and Saturday nights, but maybe Lyft might pay more during the week. And I know some drivers have talked about this where they say, hey, you know what? I drive for this one app during the week because it actually pays more during maybe the non-peak hours, but then I drive for the other app during the peak hours because the peak hours, that other app pays more. These are different techniques a lot of drivers use. And these are just a few of the techniques I have talked about in a video where I did 25, and it's in the description below, 25 tips for new drivers. This is just one of those tips. And actually, I think, if I remember correctly, it was the first pro tip on that video to sign up with both apps. When you're in the middle, you get the best of both worlds. Remember, it's free to sign up, free to drive for them, and there's no quota. Sign up with both. And now if anything pops up after doing analytics testing, looking at the bonuses, the incentives, whatever pops up, you're in the sweet spot of whichever one is paying the most during that period of time, you can drive for them.